And so, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a saviour, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Plz intro. We are happy to inform you that you will be able to hear the rest for a low price of $10. 50% of this payment will go to TotalBiscuit's personal Make-A-Wish Foundation, where he is raising money to drop a 10-ton sack of sand on Bobby Kotick's head. We hope you have enjoyed your partial intro and hope to see you again soon. Engaging the show in 3, 2, 1.
Yes, indeed, folks. You're listening to the Blue Plz Monday Massacre here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. The date today is the 9th of November, 2009. It is 8 p.m. British Standard Time. It is 3 p.m. Eastern. In other countries, the time is different. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a socialist plot to confuse us all! What have I got coming up for you in the show today? Many things. I've heard that Blizzard have introduced an extremely popular new service, and I'd like to talk about it, but that's going to have to wait till a little bit later on in the show. Indeed. Also, a good change. And an idea. It's about BOA items. Apparently, BOA items are going to become cross-faction postable. Yes, heirlooms. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the show, and how I have an idea to save the world of Warcraft. Oh yes, you'll have to wait for that one. It's been a stressful weekend, folks. I'm not going to talk about it, because I've said this in my podcast 101. Nobody cares about your week. And anyone that spends 15 minutes to half an hour or whatever talking about their week at the start of a podcast about something specific, unless, for instance, the podcast is specifically a podcast about your week, is going to bore the hell out of every new listener ever. Therefore, I'm not going to talk about it yet. I may mention it a little bit later on. Those of you who follow my Twitter will be aware of what's been going on. If not, I'm sure you can ask in the IRC, and if you're not there, well, what an error you have made. A mistake. Time to rectify it. irc.mmoirc.com, # or pound WoW Radio. That is the place you need to be, folks. Oh, yeah. Alternatively, if you don't have an IRC client or you're too lazy to get one, chat button at the top of the screen on wcradio.com. Yes, indeed. Now, one thing, we're trying to get this resolved. I've heard the iTunes feeds have been broken for a little while. iTunes is terrible and causes all manner of stupid things to happen. We're trying to resolve it. If you want to be subscribed in iTunes, which is probably a lot of you, then I would suggest that you use the RSS feeds that are on our website and simply add the RSS feed to iTunes. Not too difficult at all. There is, in fact, if I remember correctly, I think I put together an instruction manual. Yes, I did. How to add shows to iTunes manually. It is on the forums, but I should give you a tiny URL because I'm kind like that. I shall give it a custom URL. Aha. Yes, indeed. Create. There we go. tinyurl.com/iTunes manual. That's tinyurl.com/iTunes manual. That gives you a full instruction as to how to add the podcast feeds manually to iTunes, so they will update correctly until we get our issues with iTunes resolved. It's weird. I don't pretend to fully understand it, but we are working on it, folks. Yes, we are working on it. It will get dealt with. What else have we got coming up for you in the show? Do I have an update news? Why, yes. It's very special this week. Very special. You'll have to wait, though. And your chance to contribute to the show by emailing themurloc@gmail.com. It's the illusion of choice. Shattering your illusions of choice, only here on Blue Plz on wcradio.com. Email in a choice, a topic. I may choose it, I may not. It is a mystery. something you'll have to wait for. If it's good, that will be the topic for the last 15 minutes of the show. It's as simple as that. And unfortunately, we were not able to stop the Murloc from escaping his prison this week. We crafted the prison out of a rare form of adamantium, which we thought would be indestructible. It's also laced with kryptonite, because we thought since the Murloc is some kind of anti-superhero with powers of speech and influence and stock market trading, that kryptonite would affect him. And just to make sure, we covered it in a force field. It didn't work, unfortunately. He scared the servant boy into deactivating the force field, removing the kryptonite from the prison using some kind of suction device, and then simply opening the adamantium door. Now, this was a problem. This is something that we had not anticipated. This is something that we could have probably foreseen and perhaps preempted had we not simply put the work experience guy on designing the extremely expensive capture device. Sadly, we did so because the rest of the team was too busy making $10 pets. This is what happens, folks, when you have to restructure. Anyway, okay, I may have blabbered enough for the time being. I have a different form of blabber, and it comes in the form of this.
That sounds like it's mail time. Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to
wag my tail.
When it comes,
I want to wail.
Indeed, folks, it is mail time. Guess what that means? I can't imagine. Right, here's one. This interests me, it intrigues me. It's from Brotz. A little 80 Frost Mage. He's a core raider of Impact on Burning Legion US, and he has this to say to me. TB! Fantastic hearing your soothing voice working on a Monday, and have it come through the tubes live. There's nothing soothing about my voice, sir. I'll have you know. My topic today is concerning the current MLG, where there were 3 teams that seemed to be competitive. Rogue Mage Priest, Shaman, Death Knight Warlock, and Shaman, Death Knight Hunter. In my opinion, I don't feel that the MLG truly gives a good representation of how the real world plays the arenas. Many of the games that are played in real life, WoW, seem to come down to gear until you are hitting 1-800 plus, where the skill starts to kick in more and more. For example, my 3 teams on Live Realms is Mage, Sham, Lock. We are a triple DPS team and pretty much went from 1 to 1,200 without any issue. The next 200 points, however, were pretty much hell, as we were getting paired many times in the 1,500 to 1,700 bracket with teams who had 850 plus resilience. We hit the brick wall, took a week off, got our resilience to 800 minimum, and are now cruising up the ladder again without any issue. For something as specific as arenas in World of Warcraft, should there be a regulator put in place where upon entering the arena you are set to a specific baseline, so the games are decided more by skill than by gear and resilience? Personally, the most fun I've had in a long time for PvP was the dedicated arena realm, because everyone was on a very even playfield. On that realm we got nearly 1,900 before the prelims ended, and we were very happy with our finish. How do you feel about this? The TLDR version is, arenas are based too heavily on gear scores, possibly implement baseline auto gear for arena participants, shift focus on skill instead of gear, awards based on finish and some form of other compensation, and I would like to eat some delicious chicken tonight. Right. Funnily enough, a while ago, I actually had a solution to all of this, which was, of course, ignored because it was good. The problem with World of Warcraft, and indeed any RPGs, is when you introduce the PvP element, there is naturally going to be stats involved, and of course, how are stats given to you as the player? They are given via gear. That is to be expected. For instance, I am currently playing an outstanding RPG by BioWare by the name of Dragon Age Origins, and have been doing solidly since Tuesday. And that game has a lot about gear as well in it. And I've just got to accept that, because it's a role-playing game, it's an RPG, they're stat-based. It's not really so much skill. Now, I'm sure a lot of people would be very interested in seeing the arenas become a pure skill contest. Indeed, I would like to see them become a more skillful contest. Indeed, MLG, to me, is what arenas should be. You say that it's not a good representation of how the real world plays. Well, I would agree with that. However, one could also argue that the World Cup is not a real representation of how the real world plays football. Now, they play at such a higher level. Now, I've never really agreed with arenas being stat-based, but I can also understand where they come from. Again, RPG, got stats in it. My solution, of course, was to create various divisions, which would be granted gear at the end of every season, shorten the seasons, give it to everybody, make it very specific to arenas, and then have them fight based on skill, but Blizzard apparently doesn't want that. As to why, I really can't figure that out, because, hey, I thought Blizzard were trying to make this into an e-sport. You can't really have an e-sport unless you have an even field where skill is the determining factor. Now, of course, you will never have everything become skill, because beyond stats, you also have class balance. Class balance will, of course, never be perfect. There will be certain combinations that work better than others. The only way to perfectly balance a game is to make everything exactly the same. And you don't want that. Certainly not in a class-based RPG. That would be ridiculous. Who would support that? Hopefully nobody, if they've got any sense. So I can understand where you're coming from, and as much as I would love for that to happen, it unfortunately isn't going to, at least not at this point in time. Now, having done arena commentary on teams which were almost identical, and were wearing identical level gear, I would say that it was pretty exciting to commentate over, and hopefully the guys who watched the video, which is on my YouTube channel, by the way, youtube.com/TotalHalibut, go and have a look at that, you will see it there. That was pretty exciting, that was pretty cool to watch, but normal arena isn't. It's like watching a kick around at a local town field between two groups of random ragtag people. It's not all that interesting to watch in comparison to, say, the World Cup, which is why most people watch the World Cup and not the local kick around. So yeah, I understand that. To be honest, one might think that you'd want perhaps two tiers. You could have a group of people in the Pro League who were based around an equal footing of gear, and then you could have people in the Amateur League who would earn gear the old-fashioned way. And you'd have to qualify for the Pro League by being, well, good. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But at the moment, that is merely a pipe dream. We shall see. Right, got another email here. It's from Valerium, who I had a spat at over email, but all is well. He says this: "Greetings TB, I am not quite sure if this phenomenon is going on your server, or on any other server for that matter, but for the last 6 months now, every single day when you go to the bank outside Orgrimmar on my server, you'll see a website URL in the form of Orc or Tauren corpses that is of course a gold buying site, the URL of which I will obviously not mention since that would just give them publicity. Well, so is mentioning it, but whatever. This has really started to annoy the hell out of me, not only because it's just annoying, but because Blizzard has still not done anything about it. How hard can it be to fix? All they would have to do is make it so that if you log out or delete the character, the corpse respawns. There, problem solved. Despawns even, not respawns. Yeah, that would be a great solution. Yeah, the corpse will respawn if the character logs off. Infinitely multiplying, you'd eventually be completely covered in gnome corpses. Smelly things. What are your thoughts on this? Well, there is really no excuse, let's be honest. I can't imagine. It's a perfectly good solution. Have things despawn when you log off. I understand the whole, oh, my immersions thing. Whereas if someone dies, they sort of stick around when they log off, and then they log back in, and the corpse is still there. I understand. Yes. But I don't think it's a very good idea, because it really serves no practical purpose in comparison to getting rid of this nonsense. Now, I don't believe that this method of advertising is all that effective. How many people seriously read those things? And more to the point, how many people are stupid enough to trust a website whose advertisers have just blatantly showing themselves exploiting and hacking the game? And yes, that's what it is. They cause corpses to fall from the sky. It's a hack. It's as simple as that. It's an exploit along the lines of the whole mining under the ground thing. They don't simply run into Orgrimmar. Do you think they could do that? Do you think you could get 40 or 50 gnomes run into Orgrimmar, spell that out without dying? Not a chance. Literally, these things fall from the sky. It's a hack. Simple as that. Now, I would not trust my money in the hands of such people, would you? If you do, then you're really dumb, and you deserve everything you get. But it's unfortunate that you did it anyway, because you're giving money to these idiots, which is perpetuating the cycle of failure that is known as gold buying, gold selling, and RMT. Should Blizzard do something about it? Absolutely. Do I think it's a very effective marketing strategy? No. Really? Why does that make a difference? I mean, the funny thing is that if you didn't know about gold selling and you looked at that URL, the URLs generally don't tell you all that much about it. It's easier just to Google. I don't know what exactly they're trying to accomplish, but to me this is a smell of desperation. It makes me wonder if Blizzard are deliberately not doing anything, because if they do, then they'll resort to something more drastic, which might actually be a more effective marketing strategy. There's a possibility for you. It's the lesser of several evils. We know that gold farming, at least in terms of what it was like back in early TBC and all the way through vanilla, is dead. It's mostly about hacking people's accounts now. So, we'll see whether or not that actually develops into anything. Maybe they're just being passive on it for a purpose. Who knows? My name is TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. It's a cash-themed show today, folks. Seriously. So I'm going to play some Dire Straits. It's called Money for Nothing. Can't imagine why I play something like that. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com. Yes, indeed, folks, you listen to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Now, I would continue with the rest of this segment. Unfortunately, you're going to have to pay me $10 in order to do so, for it is classed as unessential content. Yes. However, it's okay, because $5 of that will go to the TotalBiscuit's Pocket Fund, which will be used to augment TotalBiscuit's library of DVDs, games, and possibly a large teddy bear. Because, you know what? Feeling a bit lonely. No, that would be mean. Right. So, some of you might have heard about a change that Blizzard has just implemented. Oh yes, something that, quote, everybody was asking for. Many people, apparently. Quote, many people asked for this. Interesting. I don't remember that. Any of you guys remember that? No. I don't think so. I don't think it was actually there to begin with. Are you telling me the Blizzard lied? A straw man, perhaps? Well, allow me to set this straw man on fire. Or to suggest you stand at least 10 feet or $10 away, whichever comes first. They are bringing in, and indeed have already started, a pet store. Not an in-game pet store, which would be a pretty cool idea when you think about it. That'll be kind of awesome. An in-game pet store, think about it. Go in, and all of the pets you could possibly buy are all in cages, and you can mess about with them, and, you know, you say, like, how much is that serpent in the window? The one with the rattly tail. How much is that serpent in the window? I wonder if the serpent's for sale, or if it'll bite me and kill my family. This pet store is a microtransaction store, which allows you to purchase pets for money. And it will give you a code by which you can put in-game and... magic. Immense. A pet appears out of nowhere. That's astonishing. Never seen that before. Now, I've had a literal mountain of emails about this, which was to be expected. I'm not going to read any of them, because I've, already read them in my spare time. I have no intention of espousing them on the show. What worries me more so than anything is that a lot of people seem to be in favour of this, and other podcasts have shied away from the issue. That is mainly because most other podcasts are cowards, or Blizzard apologists, or both. However, I have a reputation to uphold, folks. I'm known as being not very nice, being a little bit negative, perhaps some cynicism involved. Would you say that is accurate? A reasonable portrayal of my persona online? Certainly hope so. Because if not, I've given you the wrong impression. It's something, however, that I want to try and be quite serious about, because I really do think this is a very, very, very bad thing, and I don't want it to be lost in the vitriol. It's very easy to get lost in the vitriol, folks. You like the ranting. There will be ranting, I'm sure. This is quite a large topic. It's going to take a couple of segments to cover. However, it is important for some people to realise just how dangerous this president is. Yes. So let's talk about this. Now, there's a lot of reasons why this is awful, and the first one is something of a fallacy, and that's the slippery slope argument. Slippery slopes, something that I have talked against and been opposed to at times. There are times when slippery slopes are valid, and there are times when they are not. However, past performance is not always an indicator of future results, as much as Octail would like to disagree. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. You can't rely on it. Now, here's the thing. I would like to point you to an article. Now, I'm going to link this in the IRC. I will also Tiny Earl it for you, because I'm kind and nice like that, and gentle, and, well, okay, none of the above. I'm going to give it to our rep Stormtamer, who is helping me out today. Thank you for that. And I'm going to Tiny Earl this. And I'm going to call it Blue Plz, which has already been chosen. I think I probably already own this. Let's make Blue Plz 2. Yes, there we go. tinyearl.com/lolblizz2. That's tinyearl.com/lolblizz2. Go read that. That is a statement by Mr. Mike Morhaime. Yes, Mike Morhaime, the guy that we all know and love, right? Nothing to do with Activision whatsoever. He would never acquiesce to such things. Surely. Yes, he would. Especially when he is talking to the Activision Blizzard Investor Conference. We expect digital sales to increase in the future and plan to take advantage of it. The company sees microtransactions as an important part of World of Warcraft's future. Now, Blizzard offered reassurance, of course, that any in-game items or services Blizzard sells for the game on top of the regular subscription will be inessential. All value-added services are not required, as they are optional only, nor will they adversely impact the experience should players decide not to participate or purchase them. Yes, now this might seem entirely safe, right? That's good, surely. Like, it's okay, they are not going to cross the threshold that SOE crossed a few years back by introducing a store in which to buy items and advantages in-game. They are not going to enter the realms of free-to-play games, which are perfectly justified, of course, in providing microtransactions, because how else would they survive? After all, this is a subscription game, right? They're not going to do that. Or are they? I'm sorry, but that statement to me does not say at all that they will not be offering things like gear and gold. Because, let's face it, bearing in mind the current systems and the ease at which you can acquire both are optional, right? Buying gold is optional. I mean, there's plenty of ways to make it in-game. I've never bought gold. I'm sure most of you haven't either. Any of you that you have, well, go jump down a well, please. That's an optional service. It's value added. It's not required, right? It doesn't adversely impact the experience should customers decide not to participate or purchase them. No, it doesn't, does it? So, I'm sorry, but looking at this particular phrase here, this quote from Mike Morhaime, I am not reassured. The same could apply to gear. Admittedly, there are tons of ways to get gear now. Eh? You can get badges and such. You can get gear for running Utgard Keep. So, therefore, surely acquiring gear via an external source is an optional service? Maybe? Just a thought. Now, the slippery slope fallacy, and it is a fallacy, may be applicable. All slippery slopes may be applicable. That's the thing about it. But the fallacy, of course, is that you can't guarantee it, and that past performance is not always an indicator of future results. However, if you look at that, then that clearly indicates that they're going to be rolling out more microtransactions in future for items in-game. And they don't state what those items are. And their definition does not specifically exclude stuff like gold, mounts, items, gear. It doesn't. It's as simple as that. They have not outright said that they will not do it. And indeed, had they outright said that they'd not do it, I wouldn't necessarily believe them anyway. And there are a few reasons for that. Firstly, you just need to look at what's happening here. It's an investor conference, folks. This is part of being Activision Blizzard. Bear in mind, Blizzard does not really exist anymore. Activision Blizzard is the name of the company, and Activision Blizzard is now the way that things work. It is not Blizzard set apart in a walled fortress away from the influence of Activision. Clearly not. What evidence is there to suggest that could even be possible? Now, it seems that Mike Morhaime thinks that microtransactions are the future of the game. Really? Do you really think he thought that before joining Activision? Really? He gave no indication of that. No indication of that at BlizzCon or anything like that, even this year. Nothing of the sort. Now, if you don't think that Activision are involved in this, then I think you are, quite frankly, blind. Honestly. It is unfortunate that it's come to this point, but it has. Now, Activision, as we know, cannot be trusted. Neither can SOE, because, hey, Sony Online Entertainment introduced this kind of thing quite a while ago, and there are a couple of other companies that have introduced similar stuff. Most of it, admittedly, is on free-to-play games, or games that are really not popular and need to be propped up. But whatever. Now, are you seriously suggesting to me that Activision Blizzard can resist the call of the legendaries for cash? Really? You really think that? I don't think that. I've seen what Activision is capable of. You've seen it over the last few weeks. You've seen it over the last few months. You've heard the quotes from Mr. Bobby Kotick himself. The guy is a soulless corporate bastard. It's as simple as that. And he and his cohorts will do anything and everything to maximize profit. Now, can you blame them for that? Well, some people say no. This is the wonderful thing trotted out by apologists these days. Oh, but TotalBiscuit, you naive child. They are a company. They are entitled to make as much money any way they like. Really? Okay. So, in that case, you're going to justify things like the massive attempt at market shift with Modern Warfare 2, attempting to kill the PC as a viable gaming platform. Or the disabling of mods, for instance, or the complete annihilation of dedicated servers in Modern Warfare 2, or the dropping of Brutal Legend because it wasn't a cash cow that could be milked for the next 10 years. It wasn't a $100 million franchise, therefore Bobby Kotick didn't want it. Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, of all things, dropped by Activision. A guaranteed success, but you can't string it out for the next 10 years, so, not interested. The price hike. Is there any podcast that didn't mention it? The Modern Warfare 2 price hike? The nonsense coming out of Infinity Ward's mouth at Activision's behest. Don't be fooled, folks. Activision Blizzard at this point in time is the new EA. EA used to be vilified in the industry, and rightly so. However, they were dealt various blows by the gaming community. They felt the financial impact of their mistakes, and then a game-savvy CEO came and joined the company. And now they are more consumer-friendly. And we applaud them for that. Indeed. Everyone, including a company, has the chance for redemption. So I believe. However, at the moment, the big evil is Activision. And you can say, oh, well, they can do whatever they like. Really? Okay. Well, in that case, I'd like to look through your posting history on the internet if you actually believe that, and see you ever complain about the actions of a company, at which point I'll turn around to you, smug face on, and say, oh, well, it's a company, it can do whatever it likes, yes. Sorry, folks, but it's our duty as consumers not to allow that kind of thing to happen, and not to buy into it. It's nonsense. No, a company cannot do whatever they like. Well, for one thing, there's laws against it. Yes, if there were not laws stopping companies from doing whatever they liked, then they would run rampant. If you want an example of this... Warning, I'm about to get political. Then look at the American healthcare industry. An example of companies running rampant and damaging lives. Admittedly, this is games, it's not so important, by any stretch. However, if you think a company can do whatever it wants, then yes, it can. But there are consequences. And it's not just for the company. There are consequences for the gaming industry in general. There are consequences for gamers. There are consequences for the quality of gaming. The quality of World of Warcraft, even. Now, there's a lot more I've got to say on this. But what I will tell you is that on principle, this is incredibly dangerous. Why? Well, it's a Blizzard U-turn. It's not the first time. Let's be honest. Blizzard said at one point that they would never allow PvE to PvP transfers. They U-turned. Blizzard said they will not allow race change. Ever in a million years. They U-turned. Why? Money. Simple as that. Ethics go out the window in the face of the almighty dollar, folks. Very unfortunate, but that's the way that it is. Now this U-turn, this is the first time ever that a virtual item within the game has been given real monetary value by Blizzard. This is something that up until now Blizzard has claimed did not exist. As in, there was no monetary value in any item in the game. This is their argument against selling your account, selling items, buying gold. This stuff is their IP and has no value. But apparently it's okay if they do it? Really? Okay. Well, in that case, surely that takes away their argument against buying gold, selling gold. So when can we expect their gold selling service? After all, what's the harm in it? They've now taken that step across the threshold to say that items in-game are worth real money. And no, don't you dare bring against me the argument of the trading card game. That is a physical item. Sure, if this physical item happens to be worth $600 for a piece of cardboard, whatever, it's still a physical item. There is a blatant difference here. You are paying for something that does not exist. You are paying for something entirely virtual. And that's not, of course, to mention the terrible value for money that this is. I've got more on this after the break, folks. Oh, yes. Not done. Might get a bit more vitriolic. People seem to like that. In the meantime, however, I would like to play you Bobby Kotick's breakfast song. When he's sitting there at the table, when he's munching on his baby back ribs. Yes, baby. When he is drinking molten sulfur. In his coffee, of course. Takes it with 2 sugars. Here's listening to this. It goes by the name of Rise and Shine. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com. Yes, indeed, folks, you listen to Blue Plz, you're on Wild Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit, and you should consider yourself lucky. You've gotten half a show and you haven't paid anything for it. In this modern world, that is, ladies and gentlemen, socialist. We can't have that. We're talking about the pet store and how it's a really bad idea now, and not how it might be in the future. Let me tell you about something that I saw a little while ago. This was on a website that I frequent. It's run by 4 very talented game journalists. It's a PC website called rockpapershotgun.com. That's rockpapershotgun.com. It's Jim Rossignol, Kieran Gillen, who you should know from PC Gamer, Eurogamer, and every gamer, Alec Meir, and John Walker. And they do articles on PC gaming. It's very good. I like reading it. There was an article they did, an let's try it again. Whatever. It was an article on Project Entropia, which is a game in which you pay for virtual property. Yes. Basically everything in the game is virtual property. And the thing has become a giant, horrific pyramid scheme. It doesn't help that it's not a very good game, either. Whereas you've got the tiny minority in game making a lot of money off of it, and everyone else is pouring money into the game for no appreciable return. And, of course, it was rightfully slammed on this website. Now, along came some Project Entropians, I suppose you could call them, defending the game to the hilt rabidly, zealously, attacking the experienced game journalists. And yes, they are very experienced with pedigrees, so you can't really do that. Say, oh, you're a useless game reviewer. Well, they're not really. They're some of the most qualified game reviewers in the world, but okay, whatever. The vitriol, the zealous attitude, the rabid attacks, the aggressiveness, and it made me realize something that I should have realized a while ago. It sort of links into the talk that I did a few years back on addiction to video games and how they basically don't exist. Now, what I've come to the conclusion is that, yes, addiction to video games does not exist. However, in terms of MMOs, and this is something I sort of touched on in the lecture, but I've expanded since then, thankfully. Within MMOs, if you play for a long period of time, you become invested in the game, one way or the other. Because you've spent so much time and indeed subscription money on a character, you find it harder and harder to leave. Because you want to see a return on that investment. You want to see a continuing return on that investment. Now, of course, with World of Warcraft, you're not going to see a monetary return, but you can see a return in terms of enjoyment. Which is fine, that's what games are about, right? However, where this pet store becomes very, very cunning, very sneaky, is that when one becomes invested in a character, one wants to do everything they possibly can to make that character unique, and that's in a world of homogenization. Notice the homogenization over the past year or so, where everyone is being given the same gear. Everyone looks the same. There's not a lot to differentiate people. They've tried to level it out as much as possible. So, what you have to do in order to differentiate yourself is either have a great personality and be famous on a server, which only the tiny minority can be, and in my experience, most people that play World of Warcraft have vile, horrible personalities that I wouldn't want to interact with in a million years. However, what you could do is get something unique, something that other people don't have. Like, say, a pet. I have a couple of pets. I've got a Murky. That's very unique. I'm the only one on the server with it, I think. I have a Murloc suit. I'm one of only 2 or 3 people on the server with it. Of course, I didn't pay for any of these things, but whatever. I've got a couple of things that I got from the TCG, because I used to play it. I was lucky enough to get a disco ball, and one of those tabard things, and recently got the Shirt of Epicness, or whatever it is. Yes, I did just say epic. That makes my character unique. Now, by offering little things like that for purchase, you are tapping directly into the psyche of an invested player by saying, look at this! It's something that you can have. You can enhance your character. You can make him better. You can make yourself more unique. Because, of course, not everyone's going to be able to afford this pet. Not everyone's going to be willing to. So, hey, you have something that other people don't have. You are unique. You are special. Your investment is worthwhile. We would like you to continue to play. Might sound like psychological BS, but think about it. Think about your personal desire in game. What is it that drives you? What is it that keeps you playing? And indeed, how many times have you been tempted to either acquire a WoW TCG item or go for something that requires a lot of effort that other people do not have? Titles, achievements, items, many things, mounts, something like that. How many times? I would imagine the majority of you at some point have lusted after such an item in order to maintain your unique nature on the realm and to enhance the value of your character. Even though before, a couple of days ago, your character intrinsically had no value whatsoever. It does now, apparently. According to Blizzard, virtual items now have value because they're selling them. They have real-world dollar value. Now, again, you might think that this is all hogwash, but I'm going to be honest here. I don't think it is. I'm not just putting this out there for the sake of argument. I genuinely believe that this is what Activision Blizzard are tapping into. The investment in the game. And it's a double-edged sword. Except both of those edges happen to be in Activision's favour, because it's wangling off of one of the many-eyed tentacles coming from Bobby Kotick's head. Well out of danger. This is the other thing. When you invest money in your character, you become less willing to leave, because you see an intrinsic value in your character. Yes. I, for instance, don't really want to leave, because I've got a lot of unique stuff. I wouldn't want to delete my account. I wouldn't want to leave my account, because I've got so much stuff. I've got cool things. They have value in the real world, if I were able to sell them, which of course I'm not. They represent certain things. They represent certain achievements. Like, say, my Fetish of the Sand Reaver. That represents a time when I was able to raid some of the hardest raid content at the time, and do so successfully on my own power, with 39 other people, obviously. I keep that around. It represents something. It's a tracking of my history within the game, and those that I have interacted with. Now, the more stuff like that I acquire, the less willing I am to leave the game. So what you have is a situation where your players buy stuff for their characters with real money. The money goes directly to you at zero cost. It's pure profit. These items are infinite. And in turn, they don't feel like leaving the game anymore. It's sneaky, isn't it? But if you want a reason why this is a bad idea, then there's one right there. It's a cynical attempt to keep people in the game. Not by providing good content, not by providing reasons, not by providing good endgame content, challenging stuff, by balancing out the PvP, by giving folks what they want. No. It's a cash-in, and it keeps people in the game via psychological investment. Am I done? No. I've got plenty of other reasons why this is a bad idea. Consider this. Someone, somewhere, has got to be designing these items. Yes. A team. Probably not a very big team, but a team nonetheless. Now, for the first time, as far as I'm concerned, well, that's not true. I won't go that far. It's not for the first time. But there have been complaints in the past that have not been taken seriously, whereby something has been designed that not all players get access to. And in turn, people have turned around and said, "Oi! What are you doing? You should be spending this time doing this." And to some degree they had a point, and then to some other degree they didn't. However, these were very infrequent. We're talking things like Murky. And Murky was reused in all manner of different things. You get all colours of Murky that were going out for contests and all things like that. I believe they also became a mob in the game at one point. If I remember correctly, you were able to release them in some kind of quest. Maybe I'm wrong. We got the Murloc suit and things like that. Blizzard Bear Mount. Not that there's a lot required in the Blizzard Bear Mount, there's just stuck a Murky on top of a bear. The Grunty, things like that. But these are very rare. I mean, that's like 4 items in 5 years. Now, someone somewhere has got to be designing this stuff, and I must attest that I believe that Blizzard will be introducing a lot more of these things. They will just continue to churn them out. Because pet collectors and people who invest in the game and want to be unique, they just want to buy. So you've got to sate that desire. So there's a design team somewhere that is not working on proper content. And they're making content which is not accessible to the entire player base. Yes, some players do not have credit cards. It's as simple as that. They can't buy from this store. So you're making content that's not accessible to everyone in-game. That's a segregation of the player base. And it might be a minor thing, but to me that's yet again a U-turn. They've wanted for so long to let everyone have access to everything, and now suddenly they're introducing something that everyone does not and cannot have access to. It's such a minor thing, but again, it's a U-turn in policy, and that's dangerous. It's very dangerous, because that's set a precedent. You don't want that, because then they've got a carte blanche to do whatever the hell they please. Now, here's the thing. I don't think you're going to get value for this, because if you're giving more money to a company, specifically for one product, one would expect a better service in return, right? I mean, we're injecting Blizzard with more cash. For nothing. At all. We're not even talking about server maintenance or anything like that. We are pumping cash in for something that can be infinitely replicated. It doesn't require server capacity. It doesn't require GMs. We're not talking about loads of more players that now need more GMs and more support, bigger, more stable infrastructure, that kind of thing. We're talking about something that can be infinitely replicated for 0 cash. 100% profit. Are you going to see value add for that? I don't think you are, honestly. I would expect now, if Blizzard were sticking to their word, as it were, to say, right, well, you're giving us more money, so in return we're going to give you more content. Is that going to happen? No. No, it's not. Don't be absurd. Absolutely not. Now, what I also object to is the sneaky method of trying to soften the introduction of this particular cash grab, and that's with the charity donation. It's nasty. Because when you've got to go up against someone who is making a charitable donation, you automatically feel guilty for doing so. Nasty, isn't it? Very unpleasant. It's a divisive idea. It's divide and conquer. It's how you soften the reaction of the player base. It is a genius PR move, don't get me wrong. Their marketing department clearly knows what they're doing. Admittedly, if they really knew what they're doing, they would not let Kotick speak ever again. But, well, you can't know everything. Maybe he's like the Murloc, he escapes their bonds. Now, one way or the other, they're going to make money hand over fist. And indeed, because some of it's going to charity, they're going to be able to sell a whole lot more of these things. $5 is still a lot more than $0, which is the cost of this thing. To replicate this infinitely, no cost, 0 cost, nothing. Completely automated. Doesn't require GMs or anything like that. Completely automated system, just spits out codes. It's very easy. Yes, $5 goes to Make-A-Wish, and I'm sure Make-A-Wish will be very happy about that. However, if they really wanted to prove that this was not simply a cynical cash grab, they would have given it all. And it would have had possibly even greater effect for PR. What's wrong with 100% for a couple of months, eh? They'll probably just go and buy the Lil KT anyway. Which is the other one. That's the pet that doesn't give to charity, I might add. What a great PR move. I mean, Activision actually have donated today $1 million to veterans. Which again, great PR move. Nothing wrong with that. Not gonna blast them for that. Charity money's charity money. But if they were really sincere about this, they would have given 100%. Not 50, not 70, not 80. 100%. It's nonsense. Now, this is the kind of thing that you expect from free-to-play games, because that is their method of financing. WoW has not gone down in price in terms of its subscription since its release. There are other games that have. WoW doesn't need to, of course, because it's got a big player base. Now, one wonders exactly why they would start to try and grab more money. Perhaps the subscriber base is falling. Perhaps WoW is not the massive cash cow that it used to be. Sales falling, subscribers leaving for other games, or just stopping playing MMOs altogether. Or maybe it's just an attempt to pump as much money out of the player base as humanly possible. But one way or the other, it is not behaviour that I personally can condone. At all. And I don't believe anyone should. It's dangerous. It sets a nasty precedent. They could do anything from here on in. Literally. And I don't think that gamers now, it's so invested in the game, who've been here for so long that really don't want to leave. For God's sake, look at me, I haven't left. After all of this nonsense, after 4 years of doing Blue Plz and highlighting possibly every problem in the game, I still haven't left the game. Admittedly, I quit out for a few months. I mean, I haven't played in a couple of months, but my account's still there. My subscription still runs. It's a long-term strategy, folks, to get you more and more invested in the game and throw more and more money at it. And it ain't healthy. It is not ethical. And I really don't like this idea about applying real value to items in-game. It's not good. Not good at all. That's my argument on the subject. I apologise if you were asking for more vitriol, but I think it's a very serious matter and it deserves serious attention and rationale. My name is TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. I've got Nubcake news for you, and I'll be back after this to get a little bit more positive and present to you a solution to one of the biggest problems in game right now. Enjoy.
Live from the Blue Plz Tower, high up in the Storm Peaks, it's Nubcake News with award-winning anchor TotalBiscuit, bringing you the news that matters, regardless of your own misguided beliefs. Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later in the program, content, assuming you are willing to pay a $10 microtransaction fee in order to see it. But first, a word from our Supreme Lord and Master. The games Activision Blizzard didn't pick up don't have the potential to be exploited every year on every platform with clear sequel potential, and have the potential to become $100 million franchises. I think generally our strategy has been to focus on the products that have those attributes and characteristics. The products that we know that if we release them today, we'll be working on them 10 years from now. The goal that I had in bringing a lot of the packaged goods folks into Activision about 10 years ago was to take all the fun out of making video games. We have studio heads who 5 years ago didn't know the difference between a balance sheet and a bed sheet, who are now arguing allocations in our CFO's office pretty regularly. We are very good at keeping people focused on the deep depression. If it were left to me, I would raise prices even further. Now, allow me to demonstrate one of the new tracks from Guitar Hero 27. Take it away. Oh, well, my name is Bobby Kotick, and I will hit your soul with World of Warcraft. So race change to a belt to improve yourself. But I've got way more things that I can offer. Go on and spend your wealth. I'd buy a little KT. Go on and spend your wealth. I'd buy a little KT. Well, I'm not a gamer. I'm here to profit. So I will charge you more for Modern Warfare. You better understand the value of a brand. And all that cash you'll spend goes in my pocket. You better spend your wealth on Modern Warfare 3. You better save your wealth for Modern Warfare 3. Yeah, you better spend your wealth for Modern Warfare 3. You better save your wealth for Modern Warfare 3. Yeah. Moon if you want, but I'll see you on the servers. Oh, but wait, no, I won't enjoy your 9v9 and 56k pay. Go on and spend your wealth and buy a little KT. Better prepare yourself for Modern Warfare 3. Yeah, you go regen your health with 60 FOV. I'll buy out God himself. I need a fried baby.
You are listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com. You're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Now, since I'm being pestered about it, I suppose I'll briefly mention why I seem to be a little bit reserved today, let me put it that way, and why there was not a show on Friday. I'll make it brief, folks. So, as you know, my wife has been in the States for the past year, without me being there, due to visa issues that are still not resolved. And getting her over here is also an issue due to certain other factors that are going to require a court order in order to sort out. I won't go into that. However, it's been pretty hard on all of us. Now, over the last couple of months it became a lot harder because Jen, also known as Ariana, my wife, has had dental issues. And these dental issues go back quite a way, but over the last few months they've got very, very serious. She started to experience pain, the likes of which most people could never possibly imagine. Supposedly worse than childbirth, and she would know. And this was a result of the teeth and the dental issues. Now, getting dentistry in the United States is very difficult. Particularly when, as a result of the recession, you don't have a job. She's recently just got one, and congratulations to her for that. She's been battling for months to get a job, and she's finally managed it. At a good place as well. So, well done to her for that. But it got to the point where she was in so much pain that she couldn't talk. She had to do DIY dental surgery just to try and relieve the pain, which, of course, as you know, is extremely dangerous. And incredibly painful. Now, we heard of a free clinic that was opening for 2 days only, 2.5 hours away, where she could go and get something sorted out. So she went there, went at 4:30 in the morning, that's when she started off, stood in the cold line with over 300 people for hours on end, and they were able to remove a single tooth. They did so, they got rid of one of her wisdom teeth, which it turned out was abscessed. those of you with any medical knowledge will be aware that abscesses, aside from being very unpleasant, in the teeth can spread. Had done so, spread to the jaw, infected the jaw, the cheek, and potentially, had that tooth not been removed, could have spread to the brain, which would have been lethal. And apparently this could have happened within months. So that was a bit of a shock, needless to say, and that knocked me and Jen on our asses for a while. But the clinic did not, for some reason, offer any painkillers or antibiotics. So by the time the local anaesthetic wore off, which thankfully was not while she was driving, she was in unbelievable agony because they had smashed her wisdom teeth apart quite literally. Just one wisdom tooth. Literally smashed it apart. That was the only way they could get it out. So after paying an absurd amount of money for painkillers from the ER, we're left with a situation. Dental surgery that would cost over $6,000 in the US. Which is heartbreaking, quite frankly. And I don't want to get political, but this is too important an issue. This is dental care and healthcare in general. I'm sorry, but the state of healthcare in the US is an abomination. It literally, in parts of the US, is like the third world. And there are doctors and dentists and all manner of medical professionals that will back that up. It is a disgrace. And it has to be resolved. I could go more into that, but this is a WoW show, so I won't. Now, thankfully, we've been able to find a dentist in the UK who is willing to do all the work gratis. An absolutely incredible man, I might add. An amazing, amazing individual. Anyone that's willing to go out of their way to help someone like that deserves all praise. And we're very humbled by his kindness and his willingness to help. Now, of course, that means that I get to see my wife again, which will be great. At the end of this month, in fact. Unfortunately, it also means that we're going to have to be getting a transatlantic flight, which is expensive, and not something that we can really fit into the budget right now. Now, we've done enough donation driving, so I'm not going to ask for money, but a lot of people were asking why this has happened, so I just wanted to let you know as to why I'm a little bit down, why I'm a little bit reserved, and have been under a lot of stress over the past few days, and of course, Jen has been in a lot of pain, so that's not really something that I could feel right going on the air and being all happy-go-lucky and ranty, yeah, when that's been happening. But there is the end in sight. There was light at the end of the tunnel, thankfully. And we're just going to soldier on to that. So thank you to everyone that sent letters of support via Twitter, via email. There were an awful lot of you. That is very much appreciated. There were a couple of people who decided that this was going to be turned into either a political issue or a personal issue against me and Jen. And those people know who they are. And, quite frankly, will eventually get what they deserve, no doubt. We shall see. Not very nice individuals. Anyway, that's that out of the way. So let me talk about something a little bit more positive. I feel a bit better now I've got that off my chest. It's unfortunate that I have to even mention it on the show, but a lot of people asked, and it's difficult to deal with it without talking about it, unfortunately. And you know what? I don't have money for a therapist, so you're just going to have to deal with it. You are my therapy, folks. And hopefully I yours at times. God, that's a scary thought. Right, let's talk about something positive. Yes, positive stuff. Rah. I have for you some information, which you will find on mmochampion.com. Head over there right now. mmo-champion.com. That's the place to look. That is the place to look. There has been some information released about what's going to be happening in 3.3, and there are two interesting points that seem unrelated. However, my mind, being the crazy thing that it is, and really not working correctly, has managed to link the two together. It's kind of like square peg round hole. I just keep ramming at it until it eventually goes in, and then I proclaim that, yes, it was designed to go in there. It was a match made in heaven. Like peanut butter and chocolate, which is disgusting, I might add. Heresy. Right. Cross-faction BOE item mailing. Not BOE, BOA. You may be aware of the system of heirloom items. I would certainly hope that you are. It allows you to purchase an item with badges. Certain kinds of badges. Some of them are Stonekeeper shards, I believe. Is that what they're called? I certainly hope so. Because I know TBC had something like that, didn't it? And I do worry that I'm getting all of my currencies mixed up. You can also buy them for various different flavours of badge. And these items scale with level. And that's great, because you can roll an ult up and you can have an Arcanite Reaper from level 1 and it'll level up with you. They're generally very powerful. They generally do not need to be replaced until level 80, so they speed up the leveling process, they make it something a little bit more enjoyable. And they encourage one to roll an ult, which of course I'm not going to do, but whatever. It's actually not true. I'll be rolling a Troll Druid, assuming it gets Vorpal Tinker form. Blizzard, you heard me. So, for a while there have been complaints, misunderstandings, as it were, as to the nature of a bind-on-account item, which heirloom items are, as are various other things. And it's that you cannot mail them to the opposite faction. Now, anyone that thought you could is perhaps not thinking clearly. The reason, of course, being that you've never been able to mail anything to the opposing faction. So why do you think you'd suddenly be able to do that now? It's a complex issue. There's a great big analogy on the EU forums, I believe in my FAQ as it happens, and various other places that have repeatedly justified this. But Blizzard has finally decided that yes, this should be okay, and to be honest, I would agree with it. In 3.3, this is a quote from Rixian, who says, "There is good news, and if you patiently wait for patch 3.3, you will probably be rewarded with the very thing you are requesting. That's right, we aim to implement the ability to exchange bind-on-account items between your Horde and Alliance characters in Fatch 3... I need alcohol. Vodka, perhaps. Patch 3.3. Of course, as with anything not yet live, and even things that are, they are subject to change, but it is currently our intention. Hope this helps somewhat, or rather hope that that will help someone." What? Stop talking, Rixian. Blithering. Right. That's very good. I mean, how could you object to that? I certainly don't. I've never been one for alts, but if I were, heirloom items would be something I'd definitely go for. There's a lot of nostalgia involved in heirloom items. I'd like to see a second tier of heirloom items, perhaps tier 1. That would be nice. You brought back some tier 2 items, so let's see some tier 1 again. I want my Arcanist belt! You can get the Mage Blade, as I recall. Actually, no. Is it the Mage Blade? You can get something. You can get the Headmaster's Charge, I know that. I think you can get a one-hander spell as well. I'm not sure which, though. I know there's a Mage Blade available from Onyxia these days. And the Fang of the Mystics. Now, I would be interested in these kind of things, and I would think that this is a very good idea. Now, there was another announcement. Something perhaps unrelated. And it says this. This is on the subject of Emblems of Triumph in Heroics. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go too far into this, you've heard it before. It's from Bornak, he says this. "While we have changed the emblem system several times since the inception of Badges of Justice back in the Burning Crusade, we feel that this is currently a good way to go, so players aren't forced to just run old content like Naxxramas for 2 months to work their character up to do higher level / new content." Okay. Now, who is that valid for? How many times have I made the argument that a new player does not need new content because everything is new to a new player? Perfectly logical, right? Now, that does not apply, of course, to existing players who are rolling alts, and I can see where the frustration would lie in gearing up such a character. It's tricky, you don't want to do it again. Makes perfect sense. So, this is their solution. And as always, with Blizzard, it is ineloquent. It's clumsy. It's crude. It causes more damage than it solves. It's surgery with a sledgehammer, folks. That's what it is. Sure, it might get the job done, but it'll be a bloody mess at the end of it. So it falls to me, in my arrogance, to come up with something better. I reckon I can. I have an idea. Now, you remember I said I wanted to link these two posts together, and you're wondering, well, TotalBiscuit, have you truly lost it? Perhaps I have. I have an idea. So, here's the problem. Here's the situation. Problem. Alts have to, at least without the badges, would have to run through Naxxramas and all of the old stuff that they've done a million times before in order to gear up, in order to do the high-level stuff. That's bad. Yes, absolutely. Bad. Waste of time. Guilds hate doing it. So, their implementation, Triumph Badges. Triumph Badges from Heroics, easier to get, you can gear up a lot quicker, you can get back with your ult, say you want to change your character class, you want to roll an ult, get your ult up and get going, then you can do it that way. If your guild's not doing the low-level content anymore, no problem. You can do that. Okay. And that's their solution to it. Well, their solution is ineloquent, folks. It doesn't work. It's not good. It breaks a lot of things. It ruins the progression path. New players don't need it. New players should be seeing the new content, surely. And by the new content, of course, for new players, I'm talking about all of it. They should see all of the content. Why should a new player miss out on Naxxramas, Ulduar, one of the best instances they've ever designed? Still should be 2 instances, but whatever. TOC, well, I'm sure they can miss out on that. It's rubbish. Why should they have to miss out on all of that? That doesn't make any sense, surely. So, there's your 2 camps. Your alts, your new players. Both have different goals, both need different things. How can you reconcile it? I have a solution. How about you use heirloom items to do this? Now you might say, well, TotalBiscuit, this is nonsense. Heirloom items are no good at this level. They're not even comparable to raid gear. And of course you would be correct in that assumption. So, okay, why don't we make them comparable to raid gear? And then you say, TotalBiscuit, this is nonsense. How dare you do this? You should not be advocating raid gear from badges. You've said it thousands of times before on your show. It's a terrible idea. How dare you? How dare you desert us like this? Betray our sensibilities. Well, dear sir, how about this? A second tier of heirloom items. Crafted heirloom items. Using items that are BOP. And when I say crafted, I am talking about BOP crafting in general. As in, you cannot make it for somebody else. It is bind on account crafting. So therefore, if one wants to get their alt up into the higher level content straight away, they must have already done the higher level content on their main in order to get these items. That will allow you to bring the alt straight into the raid game at the level appropriate for them and not have to repeat the boring content. That's how you do it. Heirloom items with BOP drops from high level instances that require in order to make the actual item itself. And you yourself are the only one that can make the item. You can't buy it off of somebody else. And that's how you get it. Now, that provides a adequate 2-tier solution without breaking the progression path. The new players run the old content. And they say old, it's not old to them, it's brand new. They should be able to run that. They should be encouraged to run that. That's the best way to learn. You don't want to throw them into all this high-level content because they'll just cry for nerfs. And then, of course, that ruins the high-level content for everybody else. However, if you were to introduce raid heirlooms, then you would allow those mains who have progressed far in the game to gear their ults up quickly. They would not need this ridiculous badge system. They would not need to break the entire progression curve in order to get the ridiculous badge system and benefit all of the other players who do not deserve that level of gear. It's proper stratification of the player base, folks. That is how you do it. That's how you fix it. Go on, Blizzard. Give it a shot. You listen to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. I am unfortunately a little bit too tired to do the Murloc today. I promise you he will return next show. We'll come back after the break with the illusion of choice. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com. So yeah, I'm pretty quiet on Vent, you know? Kinda laid back. Oh my god, you noobs! DPS the ends! Just like to chill out, kick back, relax, raid with my friends. No worries, no stress. How is that even possible? Are you 7 different shades of stupid? Move out of the fire! It's important to make sure my orders come through loud and clear. I'm a bit, well, shy. I'm not particularly loud or anything. My last event server was really poor quality. Tank it, for heaven's sakes! Tank it! How can you be so monumentally freaking terrible? Well, I discovered UGT Ventrilo servers. Amazing quality, great prices, and they're so reliable. Pretty much perfect in every way. I mean, I was a pretty calm guy before, and now I've got even less reasons to worry. Why? Why do I raid with you people? Why not get one of your own? UGTservers.com. That's UGTservers.com. You'll be glad that you did. It's really helped me find my zen, you know? Do you like WoW Radio shows and want to show your support for the hosts and reward them for their time spent? Well, WoW Radio show tip jars are now open for a variety of shows, so you can give to the hosts of the shows that you love. You can throw your spare change in the Blue Plz tip jar if you so choose by PayPal to TotalBiscuit@gmail.com. Keep the Murloc from your door. Thank you for your continued support. Yes, indeed, folks, it's time for the illusion of choice! Terrifying. Got one here that's kind of cool, kind of nifty. Yes. It's from JB. I wonder if that's his actual name. It actually is. There you go. Level 80 Priest and Mage on Executus EU. He says this. Hi CB, I was wondering what you would think about a UBRS-style 10-player raid instance for Cataclysm. I was thinking about a puggable 1 to 2 hour long instance with moderately complex bosses and trash you can't just AoE. Might even be possible to throw in some crowd control if Blizzard really went crazy. Throw a bit of onion in it, folks. We have ham toasties and cheese toasties. You're from England. We'll make you ham and cheese toasty, huh? Throw a little bit of onion in it. Let's go crazy. That's my best impression of someone from Holland there. Having been to Holland, I can tell you, in fact, that's all they eat, literally. Every single last one of them. In fact, you see them in the street. Every single one of them has either a ham toasty or a cheese toasty in their hands. And the really crazy ones have both. It's a shocker. Amsterdam was literally paved with cheese and ham. It was a bit smelly by the end of the day. Anyway, JB continues, I believe it could be a nice place for new players to get some basic raiding skills, as well as a fun place for more experienced players to gear up for the real raids. Yes. Okay. Well, honestly, I don't really see an argument against that. Such an instance kind of existed back in TBC. It was called Karazhan. Admittedly, it was a little bit longer than 1 to 2 hours. It was a bit big, but that was the place where you're supposed to cut your teeth. It showed you almost every possible kind of encounter that you could imagine. All sorts of different mechanics to get you used to things. Had trash that, yes, had to be crowd controlled at times. Scary thought. Terrifying. And it prepared you. It prepared you very well for the stuff that was to come. If you could beat Karazhan, at least before they nerfed it into the ground, then yes, you could have a good shot at Groll, you could have a good shot at Mactheridon, and you could have a good shot at SSC and TK. The progression path in TBC, I argue, is the best ever, and my opinion on that is not going to change. Unless you pay me a lot of money, perhaps $10. A microtransaction, as it were. Right. Yeah, I have to think about how you're going to design something like that. Making something that's 1 to 2 hours long and a 10-man is not that hard. The problem is that Blizzard don't want to do 10-mans anymore. They want to do 10/25s. Now, by the looks of it, it's probably going to be that way anyway. If you look at the idea behind Cataclysm, Cataclysm's supposed to have 4 raid instances on launch. It's going to have 2 6s, I believe, a 4 and a 1. Yes, it's going to have 4 raid instances on launch, and they're all going to be brand new. Now, I would imagine that they're not going to all be the same difficulty. Or maybe they will be. Be kind of odd, but it's possible. Is that an entire tier of raiding right there? 4 instances and 1 tier. That would be awesome. Think about that. How exciting. That's a great idea. Instead of what we got now, which is 1 instance per tier, with the exception of tier 7, which is 2 1 bosses, and then the recycled crap of Naxxramas. Or will they tier it? That's a good question. Will they have 1 big instance as a tier there, and maybe throw the 1 boss instance in there for good measure, and then they have the next tier being the 6 and the 4, to SSC and your TK when you look at it? Maybe. It's possible. So, I don't know. Maybe they will do that. If they design it that way, and they make the progression linear, and maybe go back to a TBC style of progression, then yeah, one of those instances is going to be easier. And that would that would be the little 10-man thing. It's also going to be a 25-man, admittedly, but why not have one dungeon be the training area for both? I don't see the problem with that. Naxxramas trained people to do basically nothing, because it was far too forgiving. Now, one would think that after going through all of that stuff, the Blizzard would say, okay, well, you're probably ready for something a little bit harder now. So it's like, we took a step back in Burning Crusade with Naxxramas in the Tier 7 era, and indeed the Tier 9, for some inexplicable reason. Only the even tiers are good in this particular expansion, folks. I don't know why. Odd numbers are unholy, apparently. So, in that case, surely we can then take a step forward, build on... There are some good things in Wrath raiding, like the settable difficulty levels, for instance. That's good. Choice is good. The hard modes. Binary hard modes suck. Non-binaries are good. I didn't like the fact that they were saying, oh, well, we think binaries are the way to go. No, they're not. Don't be ridiculous. Binaries offer absolutely no benefit other than allowing you to be lazy. That's not a benefit to the player base. That stratifies the player base far too far apart. You've heard what I think about binary hard modes and the reason why they're bad. They're universally bad. No good reason for them. So hopefully they take that lesson there. But hard modes in general were a good idea. So, it seems to me that if you take the best bits out of TBC, and that's the multiple dungeons on a single tier, very important because that gives variety, lots of smaller dungeons as opposed to massive great stonking dungeons like Ulduar and Icecrown. Split them, make them interesting, give people new paint on the walls, give them variety, give them new scenery to look at, give them new lore objectives and all kind of things, different themes. Allow them to have a varied raid schedule. That is a good thing. That will keep people raiding. That will prevent burnout much better than saying, here's Ulduar, have it for 6 or 7 months, this is all you're ever going to raid. And while that was good, here's Naxxramas, you had to raid that for 6 months as well, and you finished it in 3 days. Ugh. So you take the good things out of TBC, you take the challenge, the difficulty, the need to crowd control, the originality of the bosses there, the punishing mechanics. That's something I think is so vital. You can't learn anything unless you are properly punished. You don't learn anything from the new version of Heigen, for instance, because it doesn't matter. You're gonna get hit, and it doesn't make a blind bit of difference. At all. Nobody cares. Oh no, you got hit. It's going to hit me like 3 or 4 more times to actually do anything. And in that time, of course, I can be healed. Think about it. Why would you care? I've seen some people actually heal through it. What a disgraceful state of affairs. Same thing with Thaddeus. Oh, you got the wrong side. It's okay, because you only take about half damage. You don't die. Again, the Frogger boss is the only lethal one in there. So you got to bring the lethality back in order to properly teach people. That's my idea anyway. I think that's the best way to teach people. You put them against a challenge that they must defeat. You make the consequence for failure high, costly, dangerous. Makes people focus more. I remember one fight that made people focus a lot. Fights that, when dying, you don't just simply become a lost DPS, you become an actual danger to the raid. There are a few examples of that. Like, for instance, Archimond, prime example there. You die, you have the potential to wipe the entire raid. That's a reason not to die, folks! The rest of your raid's going to rage at you. That's an incentive to bring your A-game. You don't want the rest of your raid turning around and saying, what the hell? You just killed us all. There are other bosses like that. To a lesser degree, you've got Chromagus in Blackwing Lair, which, if you manage to acquire all 5 types of the aspect thing, I can't remember the names of them, but if you acquired all 5, you turned into a Draconid, which would then run around and kill everybody. Fights like that, we need to see more of that, because that will teach people. It forces you to concentrate and bring your A-game for fear of disappointing people. It's not just a case of dying stupidly, it's a case of killing the rest of your raid. Ugh. Not nice. There's a few other things like that, of course. There's pulling aggro, which doesn't happen at all. I've never seen anyone pull aggro in Wrath. That's something that needs to come back. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm sure they'll manage it somehow. You don't have to be careful with your DPS anymore. It encourages slovenly play, right? And you'll never learn that way. If you want to teach people how to raid properly, then you've got to put them through a proper raiding 101. You've got to teach them. You don't simply say, oh, well, it was okay that you failed. It's not okay that you failed. Be less terrible. Aspire to be something more than you are. That applies to all walks of life. Especially in World of Warcraft. Not that World of Warcraft's important, but it's an opportunity for you to be good and be all you can be in terms of a gamer within the WoW setting, and it requires very little effort on your part. It's not some unattainable goal not to suck. Really, it isn't. Anyone can do it. All you need to do is pay attention. But Blizzard has got to help out. They've got to be the tutors. They've got to be the teachers. The players can't do it for them. They're incapable. There's too much infighting. And a lot of people don't want to be. Why would I want to teach someone how to raid if I pay my $15 a month to just play the game? I don't want to be saddled with noobs, losers, scrubs. I don't want to be saddled with those kind of people. I don't want to be dragged down by them. They're wasting my time. That's inconsiderate. I don't like it. Who does? Time thieves. That's what they are. Time vampires. You know what we should do with time vampires? We should stake them with the stake of knowledge. And failing that, a brick over the head should suffice. So yes, I would agree. Absolutely, there needs to be something like that. I think that's what they're going for. I hope that's what they're going for. If they're not, then Blizzard, please, 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 for the love of God and all that is holy, do it. Teach your players for once. Don't mollycoddle them. It will only end badly for you and the player base. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has been TotalBiscuit. You have been listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. My apologies again that I am not my usual animated self. It's been a very stressful weekend, as you might imagine. Thank you ever so much for listening and for donating to the tip jar. As some of you already have, that is very, very much appreciated. Humbling, in fact, that people would think that the show is worth giving money to. Thank you very much. If you wish to do so, it's totalbiscuit@gmail.com via PayPal. You are by no means obligated to do so. It's very nice when you do. We have a few minutes for shoutouts, folks, but of course I must be charging $10 for these shoutouts, but it's okay because 50% of it will go to charity. Yes. Microtransactions, folks. It's what it is. Well, not really. Shoutouts to totalbiscuit@gmail.com. That is totalbiscuit@gmail.com. Alternatively, tweet it, folks. Tweet it. Twitter.com/TotalBiscuit, send an @reply, or you can send me a message on IRC. IRC.MMO, IRC.com, # or pound WoW Radio for a shout out. That's all you need to do. It's not that hard, really. It's not difficult. Perhaps we should nerf it, however. Some people can't quite handle it. It's dangerous. It's too old school for people. Now, while you are chewing down on that and getting your shout-outs in, I think that's a really old one, actually. No, I can't do that one. There we go. The stream is being not so much laggy today, but it's taking a little bit of time to go through, so here we go. A shout-out to TB, and a shout-out to me, finishing Borderlands' second playthrough. It is awesome, and thanks to all the WoW Radio community for recommending this game like mad. That's from A Moose of Mystery. Oh, I think he needs a special sound for that.
A moose of mystery.
Terrifying. What? I've been infected by nose.
Ugh, frightening. Right. Can I have a shout out to Dragon Age for having bosses that can kill you? Yes! Yes, it's so good! Oh, that's from Volborg. He's got the right idea. I play it on hard, by the way. A shout out to Borderlands quest items getting stuck inside immovable objects for some reason. A shout out to my guild. What the hell is that? Noughts of the Round. I'm pretty sure you're not called Noughts of the Round. On Alderman US, and our guild leader, Ambassador Shotgun, for Dinging 28 in RL on October 30th. That's from Sean Caster. Shout out to me for pre-ordering Modern Warfare 2. No, scumbag. Just got finished. Don't you even say that. He is trolling me, folks. I'm not going to have it. Therefore, you don't get your shout-out, but you can have it if you pay me $10. Would like a shout-out to Nexus, the sombrero-wearing fire mage from Balnazar EU. That's from Jace. Let's see what we got. A shout-out to you and Ariana. Good luck to both of you. That's from Rizzo. And a shout-out to the Wildcards Guild on the Agrimar server for helping me reach level 80. I was away since things released. Okay. Shout out so given. Shout out to my friend for coming back to the game to level up a paladin to heal us in Nax 10. That's from 4Nozo. And a shout out to Bunkerface for hitting the holding bracket at the firing range because I laughed at the bloody Bobby Kotick song. Please be careful with guns! Ugh. Horrible. Shout out to Borderlands being awesome. That's from Scarf Karoth. And lots of luck wish to you and your wife. Yes, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Again, a shout out to killing an Uberak 10-man hard mode with 2 groups. That's from Arena. And last but by no means least, a shout out to me for finally getting unbanned. That's from Ninja Pants. I can fix that. But it's okay, because you'll be able to remove the ban for a low, low price of $10. My name is TotalBiscuit. This has been Blue Plz. Check out the rest of our shows on WCURadio.com. You'll be glad that you did, because they are all fantastic. Subscribe to the WoW Radio Twitter feed. That's at WoW Radio. You can also check out my Twitter feed. That's TotalBiscuit. I tend to shout a lot on there. There you go. Some people seem to like that. I can't imagine why. So, what should we finish with? Been very appropriate so far. Oh, I think I can find something. So, when Bobby Kotick goes on holiday to the countryside, tell me, where does he like to frolic? I can tell you. He likes to frolic in the fields of gold. Good night.
You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. You can listen live Fridays, 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That's 3 p.m. EST, with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. We appreciate your time. We would like to invite you to be part of our large forum community at forums.wcradio.com. Please take a couple of minutes of your time to rate and review our shows using iTunes. Thank you for listening.